"I've been in love with someone else this whole time," she said. "So I just said, okay, and walked away. Now he's engaged to someone else, and she just showed up at my door." Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. Thanks. My name is Mark. I'm 31. This isn't one of those "I got my revenge" stories you see on here all the time. This is a story about being completely erased, only to realize that the person who did the erasing was about to be erased herself. It's about a kind of quiet dignity that you find after everything you believed in turns out to be a lie. It's about moving on so thoroughly that the past becomes something you can barely recognize, like a photograph of a stranger. For 3 years, I was the rock, the unshakable foundation, the boring one, as she would later put it. My girlfriend, Sarah, was the artist, the creative. She was an aspiring photographer, an incredible eye for capturing emotion in a single shot. When we met, I was a network administrator for a mid-sized company, and she was a barista trying to save up for her first professional camera. She had this spark, this way of seeing the world that was so different from my own methodical, logical approach. I loved it. I loved her. Everything I did for those 3 years was for her. Our entire life was built around her dreams. She wanted to move closer to a major city for more opportunities, so I found a job there, and we moved. The rent was steep, so I picked up a side gig doing freelance IT support on weekends to cover the difference. I didn't mind. I believed in her. I saw the way her face lit up when she got a good shot. When she was on a creative high, it felt like I was, too. Her happiness was my happiness. I told myself it was a partnership, a long game, a mutually beneficial arrangement. I was building our future with a stable income and a reliable home. She was building her career, a more vibrant one, and one day we'd be a team that had it all. The small signs started about a year ago. Looking back, they weren't small at all. They were massive, glaring neon signs that I chose to interpret as anything but a betrayal. She started spending more time on her phone, glued to a screen. It was always work stuff, she said. Connecting with other creatives, building her network. Her phone was locked down tighter than Fort Knox. I'd walk into the living room, and she'd reflexively flip the screen face down on the coffee table. The open conversations we used to have about her work slowly faded. Instead, she'd just give me a one-word summary of her day. Then came the comparisons. A new name started popping up in her conversations, Alex. He was a photographer, too. She met him at a gallery event. At first, she spoke about him like a colleague, someone to exchange ideas with. Then the tone shifted. "Alex says the kind of work I'm doing is just a side hustle," she said one night, her voice heavy with judgment. "He thinks true artists don't have a 9-to-5. They live and breathe their craft." I remember laughing a little, trying to be lighthearted. "Well, I'm glad someone has a 9-to-5, or we couldn't afford this apartment." She didn't laugh back. She just looked at me with this cool, dismissive expression. The comments became more pointed, more frequent. They were always about Alex. "He lives in a converted warehouse loft," she said on another occasion, scrolling through her phone. "His entire life is a work of art. Not just his work." She'd talk about his travels, his connections, his passion. The word passion was thrown around so much it lost all meaning. It became an adjective used to describe everything he was and everything I wasn't. Alex was passion. I was a paycheck. Alex was a wanderer. I was a homebody. Alex was an artist. I was a commodity. I was just the guy who paid the bills, the financial safety net, the stable ground she could stand on while she reached for a different kind of life. A better one. One that didn't include me. I remember thinking, more than once, that I felt like a stepping stone. Like I was serving a temporary purpose, and when that purpose was fulfilled, I would be discarded. I pushed the thought away. I told myself I was being paranoid, jealous. She was just talking about her work. She was just talking about someone she admired. But every time she said his name, a little piece of me felt like it was crumbling away. I tried to talk to her about it. I sat her down and said, "Sarah, I feel like you're pulling away. What's going on?" She sighed, a dramatic, put-upon sigh. "Nothing, Mark. You're overthinking it. I'm just busy with work. My creative energy is finally flowing, and I need to be focused." She said the last word with a pointed stare, as if my very presence was a distraction. I backed off. I told myself she was right, that I was being insecure. I told myself that her success would be my success. I believed it, right up until the day she came home with a different kind of look in her eyes. It wasn't the look of a person who'd had a good day at work. It was the look of a person who had a secret, a person who had made a decision she knew would break someone's heart. She set her camera bag down on the kitchen counter, and the silence in the apartment was deafening. I knew what was coming. I just didn't know how badly it would hurt. Her expression was flat, emotionless. It wasn't the look of someone who was about to deliver bad news. It was the look of someone who was about to close a business deal. The air in the room felt thick and heavy, like a storm was coming. I knew, with a sick certainty, that the conversation I had been dreading was finally here. "What is it, Sarah?" I asked, my voice coming out quieter than I intended. "Just tell me." She sighed and finally met my eyes. Her gaze was completely devoid of the warmth I had seen for 3 years. "This isn't working, Mark," she said, her tone as casual as if she were talking about a burnt dinner. My heart sank. "What isn't working? We can fix it. I just want you to be honest with me." She ran a hand through her hair, a nervous habit she had when she was avoiding something. "It's not about fixing anything. It's about honesty, actually. And my honesty, it means that I can't do this anymore." I could feel my composure starting to crack. "Sarah, you're scaring me. What's going on? Are you telling me you want to break up?" She scoffed, a tiny, dismissive sound. "Break up? It's not a breakup. It's a realignment. This relationship, it was just a stage I needed to get through." She took a deep breath, like a performer about to deliver a monologue. "Mark, I've been in love with someone else this whole time." The words hung in the air, a physical weight that pressed down on my chest and stole all the breath from my lungs. The honesty I had been asking for was delivered like a hammer to the head. The cruelty wasn't in the fact that she had been unfaithful. It was in the reveal that our entire relationship had been a charade, a stage. I was just a supporting character in her story. I felt a flash of white-hot anger, a surge of adrenaline that wanted to scream and shout, to demand to know who, to demand to know why. But a colder, more devastating thought cut through the rage. "She's not worth it." My face remained a mask of stone. "And I know what you're thinking," she continued, her voice gaining a sickeningly self-righteous tone. "You're thinking that this is your fault, that you weren't enough. But this isn't about you. You're a great guy, Mark. You're stable. You're so kind. But that's the problem. You're a rock. I need someone who moves, who understands the way a creative life works. I need a man who is a reflection of my own ambition." Alex gets it. The smugness was so thick you could cut it with a knife. She was doing this with an air of superiority, as if she were a benevolent god granting me the truth of my own insignificance. She thought I would beg, that I would plead with her to reconsider. She thought I would collapse, giving her the emotional validation she craved to justify her terrible actions. "This is a cosmic connection," she said, her voice dropping to a theatrical whisper. "We're soulmates. I'm just so sorry that you couldn't give me what I needed." I took a slow, deliberate breath, and something inside of me clicked into place. The anger, the pain, the betrayal. I felt it all, but I refused to let it show. She wanted a show, a big emotional scene, and I wasn't going to give it to her. She wanted me to be a victim, and I refused to play the part. My voice was calm, steady, and utterly detached. It was the voice of a man signing a document and walking away. "Okay," I said a single word. My gaze was fixed on a spot just over her shoulder. "I wish you luck." She just stood there, speechless. Her smug expression had been replaced with one of shock, as if a script had been thrown off a teleprompter. She was waiting for the emotional outburst, the tears, the confrontation. She was waiting for me to validate her narrative that she was worth begging for. I didn't say another word. I simply turned and walked into the bedroom. I started packing. Not furiously, not with slammed drawers or thrown clothes. I was methodical. I folded my shirts, rolled my socks, and placed my books into a cardboard box. As I worked, I could hear her in the living room, a ghost of her former self, just standing there. The silence was heavier than any argument could have been. It was the sound of a person who had been so sure of her own importance, confronted with her utter irrelevance. She was waiting for me to break, and I just kept packing. An hour later, I was zipping up my last duffel bag. She finally came to the doorway, her voice uncertain for the first time. "What are you doing?" You're actually leaving. I didn't answer. I just walked past her, grabbed my keys, and opened the door. Her face was a mix of confusion and indignation. You're not even going to fight for this? She said, her voice rising. After everything? After all this time? I turned and looked at her one last time. There was nothing left to say. I didn't owe her a fight. I didn't owe her an explanation. I just walked out and closed the door behind me. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't even check her social media. I just vanished. I took my grief, my pain, and my betrayal, and I carried it somewhere she couldn't see. The first few weeks were a blur. The new apartment was empty and silent, a stark contrast to the life I had just left. I came home every day to an absence, an echoing hollowness. But slowly, that void became a blank canvas. I wasn't just existing, I was rebuilding. I picked up a new side gig that I actually enjoyed, working on custom computer builds for a few clients. I started running again, clearing my head with every step. I reconnected with old friends I had lost touch with because I had been so consumed with her world. The quiet dignity wasn't about being strong. It was about being smart. I knew that she wanted a reaction. She wanted to be able to tell her story of the tearful, broken ex she had to let go of. I wasn't going to give her that. I was going to be the guy who just walked away. And in doing so, I began to find a part of myself I hadn't realized I'd lost. I started making decisions for me, not for us. My life became my own again. The confusion and hurt slowly gave way to clarity. She hadn't just left me. She had set me free. 6 months passed. My life was completely different. I was in a better place, both literally and figuratively. My apartment was a reflection of my own interests, not just a stage for someone else's dreams. I had a small workshop set up in the spare room. The pain was still there, but it was a dull ache, not a searing wound. I was getting a beer with my friend Dave, who was friends with Sarah's crowd, too. He was the only one who didn't take sides, and the only one I trusted to give me the truth. He looked at me with a little surprise. "You look good, man," he said, taking a sip of his drink. "You've been completely off the grid. What's the secret?" "No secret," I said with a shrug. "Just focusing on work, and taking care of myself. That's about it." He nodded slowly, then hesitated. "So, you haven't heard from Sarah at all, then?" "No. I think we made that pretty clear 6 months ago." He looked down at the table, spinning his beer bottle. "Look, I'm not bringing this up to stir anything up. I just think you deserve to know." He finally looked at me, his expression a mix of pity and disbelief. "Alex just got engaged." I felt a strange sense of detachment. "Okay. To who?" I asked. "To some girl he met on a shoot in LA, Dave said, his voice lowering. "He proposed to her last week. Sarah, she's completely losing her mind. She's telling everyone that he used her, that he was never serious about their cosmic connection. He just needed an end to a few of her photographer circles in the city. He totally ghosted her the day after he proposed. He even blocked her. The irony was so sharp it almost made me laugh. He had done to her what she had done to me, only far more callously. She had been so smug, so sure that she was leaving me for a better, more passionate life. And that soulmate had just used her as a stepping stone to his own ambitions, then discarded her without a second thought. She was a footnote, a rung on his ladder. Dave sighed. "It's a mess. She's calling everyone she knows, trying to get his contact info, saying he owes her a huge apology. Her friends, even her family, they're starting to get tired of it. It's hard to have sympathy when she was so cruel to you." The quiet justice of it all was almost overwhelming. Sarah, who had believed herself to be so superior, so special, had been a backup plan all along. Alex had never been in love with her. He'd just been in love with the idea of what she could do for him. He had used her to get ahead, and she was the last to know. I took a long drink of my beer. I didn't feel any satisfaction, no sense of victory. Just a quiet confirmation of what I had always suspected. The entire thing had been a lie. And the saddest part was, she had believed it herself. "I don't need to hear about it anymore, man," I said to Dave, my voice calm. "It's not my problem." He nodded. "I figured. Just thought you should know." I was already far away from all of it. But I didn't know how desperate she was until a few days later, when the calls started coming. From her. The texts, too. It was a slow drip at first, a test of the waters. Then it became a flood. She wanted to talk. She needed me. She needed her rock. The one she had so casually thrown away. And she was about to discover with devastating finality, that her rock was no longer there to break her fall. The first text came a week later. A single, bland message that felt like a test. "Hey, hope you're doing well." I didn't respond. A few days after that, another one. "I've been thinking about you a lot." I didn't respond to that one, either. The messages started to come more frequently, the tone shifting from casual to desperate. "I miss our talks. I miss you." She started calling. I never picked up. Her calls would go to voicemail, and she'd leave long, rambling messages. "I know I messed up, Mark. He wasn't who I thought he was. I made a huge mistake. Please, just talk to me." It was pathetic. The woman who was too good for my boring life was now begging for it back. The irony was suffocating. Then her friends started calling. They found me through Dave, which I found out later. I picked up one day, thinking it was a work call. It was her best friend, Melissa. "Mark?" she asked, her voice syrupy sweet. "It's Melissa. Listen, I know you guys have some stuff to work out, but Sarah is a mess. She needs you." "Melissa," I said, my voice flat. "I don't know what you're talking about. There's nothing to work out. Please, she needs a friend right now. You were always so good to her. You need to be there for her." "That's not my job anymore," I said, a wave of cold detachment washing over me. "I'm not the same person she left, and I'm not her friend." There was a pause on the line, and her voice went from sweet to accusatory. "You're being cruel, Mark. How can you be so heartless?" "I'm not heartless," I said. "I'm just not hers anymore." I hung up the phone and blocked her number. Her mother even reached out. She sent a long text pleading with me to save her daughter. She wrote about how Sarah was losing herself and that she never should have left a good man like me. It was all a desperate attempt to manipulate me into playing the role of her savior. I read the message, put my phone down, and went for a run. The emotional charge from it all was completely gone. I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel sad. I just felt nothing. She was a stranger. Her attempts became increasingly erratic. She started posting cryptic messages on social media about how some people can't handle the truth and how some people choose to run from their problems. She even posted an old photo of us together, with a caption about missing what was real. It was all a performance, a frantic attempt to get a reaction. She was trying to drag me back into her drama, but I was a ghost. I was in my new apartment on a Friday night. It was finally starting to feel like home. The walls were painted a deep gray, my new furniture was comfortable and clean, and my custom PC was glowing from the corner. It was a space I had built for myself. There was no art on the walls, just a few framed photos of my own, landscapes from solo hikes I'd taken. My phone was silenced, my night was quiet, and I was at peace. Then there was a loud, aggressive knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw her. It was Sarah. Her face was haggard, her makeup was smeared, and her eyes were red. She looked like a ghost of the smug, confident woman who had left me 6 months ago. She hammered on the door again. I took a deep breath. I felt no fear, no anger, no sympathy, just a sense of finality. I opened the door. She took a step back, her eyes wide as she took in the new place, the new me. My new apartment was bigger, cleaner, and filled with a quiet confidence that our old place never had. I didn't say a word. I just looked at her, my face a blank mask. "Mark," she said, her voice a cracked whisper. "I know this is crazy. I had to see you. I had to talk to you. I made a mistake. I've been in hell. Please, just let me explain." I tilted my head slightly. "Explain what, Sarah?" I asked, my voice calm and low. "The mistake you made? The hell you've been in? I'm not the one who should be hearing this. But you're the only one who understands me," she pleaded, reaching out a hand as if to touch me. I took a step back. "I was a fool. You were my rock. He was a lie. I know that now." I looked past her at the empty hallway. My gaze was detached, as if she were a delivery driver I didn't recognize. "He wasn't a lie," I said. "He was the truth. He was what you chose when you chose to leave. You said you were in love with him. You chose him. This is what you chose." Her face crumpled. "But he left me. He's engaged to someone else. Don't you see? I have nothing left." For the first time, I felt a flicker of emotion. Not pity, but a sense of profound clarity. I looked directly into her eyes, and there was no warmth, no love, no forgiveness. There was only the calm, unshakable truth. "I am not the person you left," I said, my voice unwavering. That person is gone. The person you're looking for doesn't exist anymore. You showed me who you really were, and because of you, I learned a very valuable lesson about myself. What did you learn? She begged, tears streaming down her face. Tell me. I learned that I'm capable of building a life that doesn't need you in it, I said. And that's a life I'm not willing to compromise for anyone. I didn't wait for a response. I just took a step forward, reached out, and calmly shut the door. The sound was quiet but definitive. It was the sound of a period at the end of a long, painful chapter. It was the sound of my future beginning. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. What do you think about this story? Share it in the comments.